Here's where I am currently on the Moogle polystyrene drawing project. I recall finishing this leg within the first hours of today before I went to bed, and then working on outlining this belt that's kind of a strap to either a sort of satchel or a sort of handbag slash purse. Within the last hours of today, I recall waking up around noon after going to bed around 3 in the morning. And falling asleep about half an hour, 45 minutes later. Around 12:30 p.m., I had two peanut butter and jelly sandwiches I prepared, toasting the bread and then spreading the peanut butter and then the jelly. Organic Wegmans generic brand. After Dad left the slices of bread out in a separate bread loaf bag. I had those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with my first cup of coffee from the morning pot that was prepared. I recall having roughly 3 or so cups of plain coffee total from 12:30 p.m. To about 2 p.m. at the latest. Then around 4:15 p.m. I was called by Wegmans with the intention of setting up a time and location to go to for orientation. Right as Dad came home from work today, and right after I got done taking care of the first floor bathroom, after taking a shower following some HIIT exercise I did. In a way, it was a perfect timing, as that made it easier to decide which location and thus which time to go for orientation. It made it easier to plan. I recall primarily spending the hours between me finishing the 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and doing that exercise. Primarily spending that time working on my Skyrim mod list. A combination of adding new mods and at one point replacing a retexture for the vanilla Thalmor slash Dark Elven armor and weapons. With a mod that essentially gave the Thalmor a new armor and weapons with 3 variants of armor, depending on their rank within the Thalmor, and each of those variants having a male variant and a female variant. And I found that mod by typing in Thalmor in the search bar for the Skyrim Special Edition mods on Nexus Mods. I recall during this time installing, during these mid to late afternoon hours, installing it seems I primarily installed mods in the hours after getting back from today's food truck rodeo that Mom took me to. Yeah, but I did make an effort to work on my Skyrim Special Edition mod list. I recall during the mid to late afternoon hours. It just seems I didn't download any new mods for the mod list. And that includes the replacement I made regarding Thalmor Dark Elven armor and weapons. I actually did that in the hours since getting back from that food truck rodeo. From which I got this rib dinner with mac and cheese and cornbread as my sides. From a barbecue food truck that I don't recall seeing during the previous food truck rodeos at that same CSC plaza. That I either walked to while at Mom's place, or that Mom took me to while at Dad's place. The bread that came on top of the ribs, put in before the ribs, it's delicious. His mom came to Dad's place to take me to that food truck rodeo event. Around 5:15 p.m. And we got there roughly around the time it officially started at 5:30 p.m. Or maybe a little bit before that. Even so, all the food trucks were there. Dad gave me some money to get him something. From one of the food trucks. I recall him telling me that he wanted some meatballs. And I was going to get that initially, but the only food truck I recall having meatballs as something you can order off the menu was that Angia's Italian food truck. And I didn't see that food truck. So I instead went to the Eat Greek food truck. Took a picture of the menu that was posted on the side of the food truck. The side from which everyone would order and pick up. I took a picture of that menu, sent it to my dad, and then called, and he told me he wanted a chicken bowl. And so I got that. Ordered that for him. After I got the rib dinner, that was when I went to the Eat Greek food truck. Mom and I walked together after I found her at the Red Orleans food truck, having most likely gotten a beef on wick sandwich or some kind of roast beef sandwich. And after we got back to our car after a 1 or 2 minute walk, and left everything either in the front passenger seat or the seat right behind that, we walked back to the Eat Greek truck so I could order a lamb gyro. We then walked back to Mom's car. And the whole time we're at the food truck rodeo, it's raining either lightly or moderately with an overcast sky. I'm wearing a light jacket that's a medium hue of gray all over, unzipped the whole time. I believe Mom moves the rib dinner to the seat behind the front passenger seat, which is where I sat. And from there, pretty much while for at least some of the drive back to Dad's place, and for a bit of time prior to that drive being started, essentially a few minutes where we just sat in Mom's car, I ate the lamb gyro because it had less solid packaging than the rib dinner. I think the initial plan was I was going to eat this for lunch, and then have the lamb gyro for dinner. But the opposite ended up happening. Although prior to that, I actually considered having the whole rib dinner basically right after having the lamb gyro. And then most likely having one of the two beef flavored phenomenal pho bowls I currently have at Dad's place. Yeah, but I ultimately decided to save the rib dinner for later, after Dad asked if I was going to film it. And in response to that, I said I would have it later. Some kind of completely liquid barbecue sauce was poured on the ribs as I waited for pickup. there was some kind of transparent black netting or fabric to protect the interior of the barbecue food truck from the ongoing rain. The rest of the trucks I recall having some kind of awning if they didn't have that in place. This mac and cheese is pretty good. I recall roughly from 2 p.m. to about 2:40 p.m. Realizing that I needed to replace the AA battery in my computer mouse. As over and over again, I would turn the computer mouse off by flipping this switch, like this, taking this piece off, taking the battery out, putting it back in, and then flipping the switch to turn the mouse back on in order to make it able to respond again. For about 5 to 30 seconds at a time before it would become unresponsive, until I did what I just described again. In spite of that, though, I was able to complete a lot of tasks on Queen's Blade Limit Break. As to initiate a lot of them and complete them, I only need the computer mouse to work for the short periods of time I described. And even during moments in which I decided to sort of give up temporarily and use the touchpad, although the touchpad is somewhat worn out due to use, it still works just fine. I can still move the mouse cursor with it, and I can still click with it. The only thing I can't do with the touchpad anymore is drag. And that was why years ago I got a computer mouse. Because my touchpad got worn out and I became unable to drag with it. There was also a concert that was going to start later at the food truck rodeo event, but it was decided we'd just go there for food at that event since it was raining lightly to moderately the whole time at the time. And I had thoughts of getting some kind of beverage, but I ultimately decided against it since I didn't have my Kona Ice cup, none of those collectible Kona Ice cups, to get a discounted refill. There was a snow cone food truck. Besides the, I don't even recall seeing the Kona Ice truck. Though there was a Tom's Traveling Coffee truck, though decided against getting anything from that food truck, even though I've never gotten anything from that food truck and hadn't really heard of it until relatively recently. I think I noticed one during a previous food truck rodeo at the same place earlier this summer. Yeah, but getting anything caffeinated would be a bad idea since I've only just now gotten back on a good sleep schedule, a relatively good sleep schedule, and didn't want to mess it up again by having something caffeinated after 5 p.m. So I didn't get any beverage with the food I got at the food truck rodeo, but I did have a kombucha spritzer, Wegmans generic brand, that I started drinking shortly before Mom came to pick me up from Dad's place and take me to the food truck rodeo, and that I finished shortly after getting back from the food truck rodeo around 5:45 p.m., 6 p.m., and after getting back from the food truck rodeo event and finishing that kombucha spritzer, I completed all the tasks that I needed to complete prior to Wegmans orientation, doing this roughly from 6:15 p.m. to about 7:15 p.m. And it involved filling out some short online forms.